Hello, BookTube. You know what works really well when you're filming a video is to hit the record button. I was sitting here talking to the camera and it turned itself off and I was like, what is wrong with my camera? Oh, I didn't hit record. How are y'all doing today? I am doing fantastic. My husband and I have some actual plans for fixing our issues with our current house. So that's why I'm in a really good mood right now. But what I'm here to do today is talk about Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I had this book on my to-read list for quite a while. Now, it's a chunker. It's 600 and let's just say that this fit one of my 650 pages long. This fit one of my I love big books reads for the year. Anything over 400 pages fits that category, so woohoo! And this one is set in the 1520s. It is all about Tudor England. And before I started reading this book, I didn't know much about Tudor England at all. I knew Henry VIII was a spoiled brat. I knew he killed his wives killed or divorced his wives because they could not provide male heirs for him. And other than that, I really knew very little. The Tower of London, he was a pretty bloody king. I've heard of some of the people in this book, obviously Thomas Cromwell. I'd heard of Cardinal Wolsey, just from watching some documentaries and stuff on Netflix or whatever, the Learning Channel in the past, whatever channel's history, there we go, had them. So I knew a little bit of the story, but I didn't really know a lot. This story is told from the point of view of Thomas Cromwell. Yes, I actually remember his name. Right from when he was a child, why he ended up moving away from his home, becoming who he is as a person, eventually ending up in the service of Cardinal Wolsey, and then eventually just directly in the service of King Henry VIII. So that's why it has to be so long. There's a lot told in this story, and it definitely makes Thomas Cromwell into a sympathetic character. It makes him still a schemer, but not a schemer for the wrong reasons. And I'm not sure if that really jives well with the reality of history. Not that I know, because like I said, I'm not really all that well versed in Tudor England. I enjoyed this book because it was a very good learning experience for me. I did. I think I ended up giving it, what did I give it? 3 or 4 stars. I can't remember which one. It's been a while since I finished it and rated it. I started reading it on vacation, and that was my bad choice. This is not a vacation read, but let's just face it, I take really bad choice books on vacation with me. That's what I do. So I tried reading this sucker by the pool, and there was too many distractions. I found it hard to follow at times who was being talked about in a certain section. So there would be he, but you wouldn't know who that he is. Like, were they talking about King Henry? Were they talking about Thomas Cromwell? Were they talking about one of the million other Thomases in this book? Or one of the million other Henrys in the book? Because Tudor England was not a time when there was a lot of variety in names at all. So there was a little confusion for me there, and that comes from my lack of understanding of the story, or knowledge of the history, I guess. Not understanding of the story, but the actual knowledge of the history. I have none. Going into this blind and fairly ignorant was maybe not the best choice. It definitely affected my ability to understand some of it and know who some of the players were and the influence they may have had at the time, understanding that hierarchy. It's also a long book. As I said, it's a chunker. It's 650 pages. We get a lot of information in those 650 pages. Probably a good thing for someone like me who is relatively ignorant of the situation and the story. I could imagine that it might be just a little, well, it was a little boring even for me. That was a bit of a problem. I thought Thomas Cromwell himself in this book is a very sympathetic character. He's a jerk. He is definitely a schemer. He is out trying to do better himself. But at the same time, he seems to have lines he won't cross. There are lines he will cross. So if someone crosses him, he will absolutely remember that. And he has no problem with revenge. He will go and get revenge at some time in a long later date. I mean, he's not just serving revenge cold, he's kind of serving it stale and a little moldy. But apparently it's quite satisfying for him. He seems very happy with his life. So he is, in the book, he's adopted some children. He's got his own children. He adopts children. He spends most of the book as a family man in some form or another, even though he is working for Cardinal Wolsey. Cardinal Wolsey, I don't know what I think of Cardinal Wolsey. I really struggled with that one because people in the church at that time were grasping. They were all about the money, and Cardinal Wolsey definitely was, and so was Thomas Cromwell. They did not go into those positions and those roles because they wanted to live in poverty at all. I thought the story around the Church of England, which is basically what happens in this book, it's not really the Church of England, but the Catholic Church is pretty much ruling England at the time. King Henry is trying to get out from under that rule so he can divorce his wife and marry Anne Boleyn. This also talks about Mary Boleyn, who is one of King Henry's mistresses, and how the mistresses are treated, how his wives are treated. I mean, it's horrible. No matter how scheming these women are, it's just not a good life for them. I don't think I'd want to live like that. I really don't. The book itself is really good. I mean, I can tell you the whole story, but that's what you're supposed to read 650 pages to get. I found it boring in places, it dragged in places. There was things I just wasn't interested in about this story. But I was extremely interested in the story of King Henry VIII. You hear the stories, you hear the rumors, you know, the bloody kingdom, the movies that I've never watched that have been made about the Boleyns, and the whole 9 yards. And so that was interesting for me, but it bogged down a little too much in the details at times. I maybe just need more practice reading long books, but I thought this one, there was times when I was just like, get it on. Get it over with. Skip this part. Why are we doing an entire paragraph, a page of paragraph about the plague or whatever was happening at that time? So that's kind of how I felt about it. I can see how it won the Man Booker Prize in 2009. It probably deserved it based on what that award is, but it was an okay book for me. I gave it 3 or 4 stars. I can't remember which on Goodreads. I'm so smart. But yes, that is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This is the first book in a series. Right now, I believe there are 2 books, and there's a 3rd one planned, but not yet published. Have a great day, everybody.